Street Vendors Act 2014. There was a constant debate in the Indian society as well as in and out of the parliament for the social security and right of livelihood of the hawkers on the streets of India. The debate started to take a formal shape in 2004 when the national policy for urban street vendors was introduced. Later in 2009, it was further updated. The state governments individually started to give a legal shape, but the lacking of the legal bindings. In 2010, the Honorable Supreme Court recognized vending as the source of livelihood and urged the Union government to legislate the law in this very subject. On the basis of it, a bill was drafted in 2011. The then Union Minister Kumari Selja presented the bill on 6th of November 2013 in the Lok Sabha and passed by the Rajya Sabha on 19th of February 2014, and it came in form of the Act as Street Vendors Protection of Livelihood and Regulation of Street Vending Act 2014 and commonly known to the people as Street Vendors Act 2014. The objective: India, more than 12 million people are on the roads with vending and hawking as the only source of livelihood. The parliament and the legal authorities were concerned to bring them under the legal frame, whereby protecting and regulating the street vending. For the very purpose, the street vendors were classified in three categories: 1. Mobile vendors, 2. Stationary vendors, and others. The objective of the government was twofold. On the one, it was to organize, secure, and regulating the street vendors, their livelihood, and on the other side, keeping the pavement free from encroachment. In other words, keeping the road and its people safe and economically viable, for which the Act speaks about the vending zone and town vending committee. The Act is based on the provisions of Article 14 and 19 of the Constitution. So, the Act is backed by the constitutional force. Features: the features of this Act is to maintain the street vendors and their livelihood through the state government. The state government is empowered to form a town vending committee, which will ensure the functioning through the local authority. The local authority will work under the town vending committee. So there must be a proper way of functioning between the state government and the vendors. The street vendors will be allocated with an area, a license, and protection under the law. The law provides a safeguard to the vendors where the authority will not be able to act arbitrarily. Rather, the street vendors will be guarded with the principle of natural justice. Let us now discuss the various sections of this Act. The Act number 7 of 2014 was enacted to protect the rights of the urban street vendors and to regulate the street vending activities, for enabling which the Act was divided into 10 chapters containing 39 sections. The application of this Act is whole of India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Section 2 deals with the definition of the important terms. Some of them are holding capacity, which means the maximum number of vendors to be included in a vending zone. Local authority includes the municipality or any other local body in whatsoever name be it called. Planning authority mean the urban development authority or any other authority who are responsible for marking the land areas or any particular purpose under the government. Town vending committee mean a body formed or constituted by the appropriate government under section 22 of this very Act. Vending zone mean an area identified or designate by the local authority under the instruction of the town vending committee for the street vending by the street vendors. It may be footpath, pavement, waiting area for providing services to the general public. Street vendors means and include all the persons engaged in the selling of articles, goods and services to the general public in a street, pavement, public place or private place in a temporary built up area or by moving from one place to another, which include hawker, peddler and others. Rights of the street vendors. The rights of the street vendors is elaborated in section 3 to 11 of the Act in chapter 2. The town vending committee in every 5 years will conduct a survey of the existing street vendors whereby look after the existing street vendors accommodation which shall be subject to the norms of 2.5% of the total population of the zone. The certificate of vending will be issued to the existing vendors or in the name of the family member as the case may be if they attain the age of 14 years. If any new person applied for the certificate of vending and the vending zone has completed the capacity of 2.5% of the total population, then such proposed vendor will be allocated in the other appropriate zone. If the existing vendor applied for the relocation to the other zone, then such will be allowed subject to the condition. The town vending committee stipulates certain standard or criteria for issuing the certificate of vending. The allocated area or certificate is not transferable or rentable. If the vendor dies, then in such case the certificate of vending will be issued in favor of the family member or dependent of the deceased. The certificate of vending can be categorized as 1. Stationary vendor, 2. Mobile vendor and 3. Any other category specified under the scheme. On that basis, the identity card will be issued. That the certificate of vending to be issued for a specific period under the scheme. If the vendor commits a breach or acted in a manner contrary to the principle of the Act, then such certificate will be cancelled or suspended with fine after hearing the defense of the vendor in concern. Rights and obligation of the street vendors is elaborated in chapter 3 from section 12 to 17 of the Act. Every vendor shall have the right to carry out the business as per the terms and conditions mentioned in the certificate of vending. The duties has been put upon the vendor to follow the rules and protect the property, maintain cleanliness and to take away the goods and articles after his scheduled slot and not to encroach beyond the demarcated area allotted to him. Relocation and eviction of the street vendors have been described in chapter 4 from section 18 to 19 of the Act. The local authority may, upon the recommendation of the town vending committee, may relocate the vending zone. The local authority shall have the right to evict the vendor whose certificate have been cancelled. For the very purpose of the relocation and eviction, 30 days notice need to be served. If the vendor fails to comply with the notice, the fine of rupees 250 will be cast upon him on per day basis. Where the seizure of the goods have been made, a list have to be prepared and to be released on fine. In case of perishable goods, such goods have to be released within 2 working days. In both cases, the application for returning have to be made. Dispute redressal mechanism have been detailed in chapter 5 in section 20 of the Act. The appropriate government may form a committee with a chairperson who must be a civil judge or a judicial magistrate and other 2 professionals not from the local authority for deciding the dispute in question. If the vendor is not satisfied with the decision, may prefer an appeal before the local authority within the specified time frame. Plans of the street vending is stated in chapter 6 in section 21 of the Act. On consultation with the planning authority and on recommendation of the town vending committee, the local authority once in a 5 year shall prepare a plan for the development of the street vendors. Town vending committee. Its composition and function have been put down in the Chapter 7 from Section 22 to 26 of the Act. The Town Vending Committee shall be formed by the appropriate government. Such committee shall be headed by the chairman and CEO of the municipality, and the other members consisting of medical officer of the local authority, police, traffic police, members of the street vendors, NGOs, bank, and others. The representation of the street vendors in the committee must not be less than 40%, and one-third of the 40% of the street vendor must be women. And proper representation shall be given from the SC, ST, OBC community and handicapped person. The members will receive an allowance as prescribed by the appropriate government. The Town Vending Committee will discharge their duties under the Act, including issuing of certificate, renewal, maintaining records, social audits, and others. Prevention of harassment of the street vendors is elaborated in Chapter 8 in Section 27. One of the major objectives behind the enactment of the Act is described in this section. This section provides protection to the street vendors who act under the terms and conditions of the vending certificate. Any person or police or any authority cannot prevent such street vendor from discharging his business activities under the Act. Penal provisions. The penal provision has been written down in the Chapter 9 in Section 28 of the Act. If any street vendor indulge in any act without the certificate of vending or contravenes any term of the certificate or act or rules or scheme, such street vendor is liable to penalty for such offence, and for each offence he may be fined up to rupees 2000 by the local authority. Miscellaneous. Miscellaneous provisions of the Act is enacted in Chapter 10 from Section 29 to 39 of the Act. The vending area allotted to the vendors never be construed or determined as ownership or lease right or perpetual right for carrying out the vending activity. The appropriate government, in consultation with the Town Vending Committee and local authority and other stakeholders, may take proportional measures, social security scheme, social welfare scheme for the street vendors. Further, may provide education, technical know-how, subject to the Act, rule, or scheme. The local authority may make bylaws. Though the intention of the government is clear to protect and uphold the rights of the street vendors or hawkers, but the intention has not been reflected on the ground, still the vendors are subject to threat from the professional and business point of view. Forced evictions is still a nightmare. There is failure in implementation of the Act.